this is Tessa, and welcome to the TNA Power Show. As always, I'm joined by my co-host. He's the star of the show, and he allegedly has no relation to Steve Maclin. He's the one and only Burt Maclin.
How's it going?
It's it's going good. How about for you?
I'm all right.
That's good. All right, we got quite a few things to talk about. Before we get into tonight's show, let's talk about NXT real quick for a bit. On NXT, we had Lexis King versus Moose and the Hardy Boys versus Fraxium. I have to say, both were very good matches, and I really like the representation of TNA and NXT. I thought that they were represented pretty well. But damn, that Oba Femi Moose tease, the match, as we found out, it's going to happen at Roadblock.
Yeah. And let me just say, good job to Moose. That was like, I can't remember the last time I cared about Alexis King match. This was a really good match. So, and yeah, obviously, I don't think it stole the thunder of the match, but yeah, I definitely, now all the focus is on Moose versus Oba Femi. That should be really good. I'm glad we're getting it sooner than later. So
I'm kind of nervous about the match, honestly. I honestly, I don't know if I want a clean finish, if I want a dusty finish. This is going to be a really big match. It deserves to be the main event of NXT Roadblock, if you ask me.
It's just for the NXT title, right?
Yeah, it's champion versus champion.
It's not champion versus champion. I don't think. I thought only the NXT title was on the line. I thought that's what. Yeah, I don't think. I think that's pretty obvious that Moose is losing. So, I think it will be. I think it will be clean. I think that's what's best. Just because I think they're trying to make Oba Femi a dominant champion, as they should. I don't know why they wouldn't. So yeah, I think Moose has to lose.
And you know something? I would not have a problem with Moose losing as long as it's a great match and he looks good, because you can look good in defeat.
Yeah, that should always be the plan, even if you're winning. You know what I mean? You should. Yeah, completely agree with you.
Joseph said, no, Oba's NXT championship is on the line, and we found out tonight why it ain't champ versus champ.
Yeah.
Oh, that's true. Yeah.
That's what I meant. It's just the NXT title on the line. It's not champ versus champ.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So then we had the Hardys versus No Quarter Catch Crew with Fraxium watching this match. And that was actually a good match. I think No Quarter Catch Crew held their own against the Hardy Boys, but I'm definitely looking forward to Fraxium versus the Hardys. I think that's going to be a fantastic match in itself.
Yeah, Miles Bourne and Tavian Heights of No Quarter Catch Crew. Obviously, the two that were in the match. I think underrated at this point is it's kind of an insult, just because they're really good, and I think more people need to pay attention. Obviously, the people who watch NXT know, but yeah, they're really good. And and then real quick, as I was seeing this, and then obviously we're getting the match, the Hardys versus Fraxium. I think Fraxium are winning the because this is for the TNA titles, right?
I believe so, yeah.
Yeah, I think Fraxium are going to win. I would, just because they're already on such a roll, and I just think if they do this, then we're getting close to we're on an all-time streak for them. So I think that, especially because I think that's the biggest match. No disrespect to the Rascals, but Fraxium versus the Hardys, and the Hardys dropping the titles to them, even though Fraxium aren't in TNA, I just think that's the bigger deal than if them putting it over to, let's say, the Rascals or First Class, or going back to this. You know what I mean? Because ultimately, I think the Hardys should put somebody over. So yeah, I think Fraxium are winning.
Joseph says, yeah, just the Hardy Boys TNA World Tag Titles on the line. Oh, okay. Alrighty. So I definitely cannot wait. I think those are going to be two incredible matches. And we'll see how it plays out. Maybe you'll be right. Maybe you're not. We'll see. All right. So let's get into tonight's show. But let's talk about this main event first, which was the 6-man tag match. It's the Hardys and Oba Femi versus the System. I really love the tease with Oba Femi and Moose, and I like the fact that they really protected Oba Femi in this match. Like, he hardly took any spots except for the when he got sent into the steel steps. And the Colons came out and attacked him. That still wasn't enough. The System was victorious here, but they did so by having Moose pin Matt Hardy, not Oba Femi. I like the fact that JDC came out and was clapping for them. Then Hendry and Elijah came out. And we found out we're going to get Jeff Hardy versus Moose in the ladder match for the X Division title at Sacrifice, hence why it's not champion versus champion. Because Roadblock, I believe, is 3 days before Sacrifice. And we're going to get the System and the Colognes versus Joe Hendry, Matt Hardy, and 3 mystery opponents in a 10-man tag match. Obviously, we know one opponent, one tag team, one partner is Elijah. The question is, who are the other two? So what were your thoughts on this main event, on Oba Femi's performance, and the matches that were announced for Sacrifice?
Obviously, yeah, no. Oba Femi did look really good out there. And then opposed to the matches. And I'm glad that he did look good out there because, again, they need to continue to make him look dominant. So I'm glad he didn't take too much. And then the match is announced. And real quick, Moose, the when is NXT Roadblock?
March 11th.
And is that before Sacrifice?
Yeah, Sacrifice is March 14th.
Okay. Things are bookings going on in my head right now. And now I keep thinking that what I said is even more what's going to happen. I think, especially what was announced, I think Fraxium takes the titles from the Hardys. Then I think Jeff Hardy beats Moose for the X Division title. Because I think that was announced, right?
Yeah, in a ladder match.
Jeff Hardy's never been X Division champion. If so, hopefully somebody in the chat can correct me on that. Io, if you're there, you know TNA history more than I do. But and yeah, because again, going back to the bigger match, we keep talking about when Leon Slater takes it. We're seeing him tag now. I think Leon Slater beating Jeff Hardy for the X Division title, breaking Amazing Red's record, is the bigger match than him beating Moose. That's just my opinion. Jeff Hardy's a legend. You know what I mean? Having that on Leon Slater's record, that's really big. And again, Jeff Hardy's never been the X Division champion. So that's just my opinion. I think that's what's going to happen. And in the 10-man match, what was that?
You're right. No, this is the first time in 20 years Jeff Hardy has tried to become X Division champion. He challenged AJ Styles going back to the Asylum days.
And then going back to the 10-man match, I've seen it, this just happened because, I mean, not that just happened. There was a 10-man match announced. I think there's 2 mystery partners with Joe Hendry, Elijah. Who else is their partner?
So it's going to be the System and the Colognes versus Joe Hendry, Matt Hardy, and 3 mystery partners. It was announced after TNA ended that Elijah is one of them, so that leaves 2 spots open.
Who are you thinking?
I'm thinking one of.
Actually, wait, hold on. 2 questions. Who are you thinking? First, who do you want it to be? It can be from obviously free agents or somebody from WWE, and then who do you think it will be?
Okay. The first part of me thinks it might just be Fraxium, depending on what happens on Roadblock.
Okay.
Okay. The second option I have is I think it's going to be Leon Slater because it seems like he's an honorary Hardy boy. And then probably maybe a debut. I feel like this is a perfect opportunity to debut a WWE release. So.
Yeah, that Fraxium do make sense, but also I'm also hoping for some sort of two releases. I can't think off the top of my head who who would make the most sense. But yeah, that's who I'm hoping.
Maybe Dominic Dijakovic. I don't know. Yeah, I need to see the list of releases to kind of get an idea. Maybe Baron Corbin.
Yeah, I'm trying to think what I saw he's going by now too. I saw his name. It was a little bit better than Baron Corbin.
It says I can see Fraxium being on the other two to join you, Joe, Elijah, and Leon. Who do I want it to be? Fraxium. Who do I think the Nemeth? So Nick and Ryan can turn on Joe and set up rebellion. I've been talking about that Nick Nemeth heel turn. I don't know if it's gonna happen anymore. Although,
oh, that's right though, because again, these are sacrifice. That's when Ryan Nemeth his brother, is coming back. I'm surprised he wasn't on the show tonight. We needed a break.
He was on the show.
Yeah,
Ryan Nemeth was on the show.
He was on the show tonight?
Yeah.
How did I miss? Okay, I must have missed it.
He came out shortly before the main event and made an announcement, which we'll talk about when we get into the show.
That's a good possibility. You've seen them team with them and then, turning on them in the end. I think that's the most not only realistic possibility, but I think that works and that we would finally get the heel turn that we've been I'm like begging for. Do something.
Right?
Yeah.
All right. Joseph says, who do I think it would be? Good Brothers, Gallows, and Anderson? I don't think so. They just got released. So they're on a 90-day non-compete clause. I think that if it's a release, I think that if it's a release, it's definitely someone that got released last year.
I like a lot of the I feel like I see a lot of like the most recent free agents, a lot of them when they made like their post on Twitter, they had like I think a lot of the dates was like in May when like they can start, you know what I mean, like kind of like that tweet alleging that that's when they can go somewhere else. I feel like I would see in May from a lot of them. So unless there was somebody like released before or whose just contract expired, yeah, I don't think it could be anybody just released.
Mm-hmm. All right. Do you have anything else you want to say before we get into the start of the show?
No.
All right. So the show started off with a system promo / segment, and they're just talking about Leon Slater and NXT and Oba Femi. And they're talking about recruiting people. And they actually say that the 230 rotten scoundrels in the form of the Colognes might have what it takes to join the system. And the Colognes themselves say that as long as the system has their backs, they have the system's backs. Moose says he likes him and things go easier if you trust the system. And then backstage, Leon Slater approaches the system along with the Hardys, and security gets in between the Hardys, Slater, and the system. So it seems like we got 2 new members of the system in the Colognes, which honestly, I don't mind. I said last week I did not mind seeing the Colognes come to TNA, and it seems like they might be coming because it says that they came to TNA not only to be a part of the roster, but to show everyone what it means to be a Cologne. So it seems like they're sticking around. I don't know if it's permanent or if it's just for a couple of tapings, but I don't mind it. I think that they're really talented. I mean, last week the way they were showcased was good.
I love their promo. I don't mind them in TNA. That's fine. I thought that when I was watching this promo, I'm like, why didn't WWE let them cut promos like this? They made them like a joke most of the time. You know what I mean? So I just don't. I'm like the system adding more members. Obviously, this isn't corporate ministry levels of watered down. They don't have that many people. But this kind of just reminds me of the NWO in the early days, like when they just kind of kept adding people. Like I don't think. Again, I like the Colognes. I think I do like them in TNA. But the system adding 2 more members, just when I kind of think that I would kind of expect this group to be winding down at some point rather than expanding. You know what I mean? It doesn't. I don't know if this is permanent. Them in TNA. I mean, not in TNA, but a part of the system, or if they're even like full members. But you know what I mean. Like 7's a lot.
I don't think, in my opinion, I don't think they're full members of the system. I think they're just like an acquaintance of the system. You know.
Okay.
I think so. That's the way it came across.
Okay.
So. Alrighty, but yeah, we'll see what they go with the colognes, but I hope they stick around.
Also, them just being, I'd rather just them be in the by themselves in the tag team division, because again, that could be, that's like another name that you could say, oh, because I don't think they've ever held a title in TNA, so, and
No.
that's a big name, so
yeah. All right, next we get a Spitfire interview, and they're basically just talking about Ash and Heather by Elegance, saying that they already have a list prepared for them when they become their lackeys. I have to say, they were pretty confident that they were going to win. They had a list prepared for them.
That
was funny. All right.
This was good. And I think that, again, talking about promo, Dana Luna and Jody Threat's promos are just improving as well. It's like they were never bad, but they're becoming very good. And this segment was very fun. So yeah, this is good shit.
All right, we get Mike Santana versus from NXT Surprise, Oro Mensah. So I have watched NXT a couple of times, so I know a little bit about Oro Mensah. So I was surprised that it was him. I didn't think that he put up much of a fight against Mike Santana, but I do think that he was decent against Mike Santana. I was not expecting Oro Mensah at all. I was actually not expecting this. I was thinking that maybe it would be somebody else,
I thought this was a pleasant, for Oro Mensah, for Metaphor, which is Jakara Jackson, Lash Legend, obviously Oro Mensah, and then Noam Dar, who I believe is injured right now. I thought this was a pleasant surprise, just because it's been a while since I've seen Oro Mensah. I think the last time we saw him on NXT was when he was kind of had a feud with Ethan Page. I think he got a NXT title shot. But yeah, I like this match. I thought Oro Mensah looked really good out there. Just because I feel like he's underutilized in NXT. So this would be a name if things don't work out in WWE right now, or if he, something happens in NXT. Yeah, TNA would be, I think would be a spot.
Okay, I can see your point. So at the end of the match, the cabinet, I'm just going to call him the cabinet because we don't have an official name yet. The cabinet appears on the Titantron, and I don't know who made that campaign video, but props, the person who made it, they deserve a raise, because that video, it felt like you were actually watching one of those political campaigns, that say no on prop, 89, or say yes to so-and-so. I actually feel like I was just watching a political campaign. So whoever made that, props to them. Like, they deserve a raise. That was a really good video being it.
The production was very well done. This is something that, no disrespect to TNA, I'm not used to seeing this. I can't remember the last time I watched something from, a video package from TNA. I was like, wow, yeah, this was very well done. This feud's 3 weeks old already, and already I think it's each week they're adding more juice to it, and I think they're, again, and it kind of shows you don't really need a title to have a feud. This already it feels must watch, and there's nothing on the line. So
yeah, I agree. And then I at the end, Mike Santana goes to the back and he runs into the cabinet, and he basically tells Skyler that he has a message for Ali, and before he could say what he was gonna say. Tasha Steeles cuts him off, and they're like, okay. So we're gonna get Mike Santana versus John Skyler next week. So this was really good. I'm really digging the feud between Mike Santana and Mustafa Ali. I cannot wait till we get that first match.
I thought that Tasha Steeles is a star of this segment. Her basically almost like the White House, like the Speaker of the House, almost. When she called him Michael, I died. That was very funny. This was very good. And again, this whole assembly of people, it's almost like Ali knew who we've been saying. I think maybe a lot of people who saying we need to see elevated, and he put them in a faction. And that's kind of always how a faction should be built. You know what I mean? Like, it shouldn't be with like, especially like you always question how's that going to work if there's 4 like stars or 4 people wanting like the world title. This faction works. You know what I mean? You got the tag team, you got the knockout, and then you got the guy wanting the world title. So this is, and again, the people wanting the world title. I mean, the tag titles and the knockout title are people who need to be elevated again. You know what I mean? So yeah, I really like this segment. And again, Tasha Steeles was a star.
I feel like the cabinet is definitely gonna, if booked correctly, I feel like the cabinet could be an amazing faction, just like the system. Because if and when the system does fall apart, then we're gonna need another powerhouse faction, and I think the cabinet can be that.
It's either going to be them or the new Northern Armory, which I do think that under Eric Young, I do like this version better. But I give the edge to the cabinet. I just think that they have something.
Yeah. Joseph says everybody in front and behind the camera for this unit should be very proud. Feels like Mustafa Ali is getting across what he wanted for his character. Feels like his cabinet is in full force. Oh, definitely. Okay. So next we get Tessa Blanchard versus Kelsey Heather. This is basically an enhancement match. You know, Masha Samovich was watching backstage. Tessa had to compete in this, otherwise she would get fired because she has been refusing to compete. I will say this, and I've said this before, and I'll say it again. I was not watching TNA during Tessa's original run. And I know she faced off Gail Kim. I know she became the first and only female to be TNA World Champion, or Impact World Champion at the time. But, you know, going into this with open eyes, and, you know, I know her controversial past and stuff, and, you know, what eventually happened. I have to say, in my opinion, I think she's doing a pretty good job, you know, eating up that heel character that she's portraying, you know?
Yeah, but to me, it's almost a little like I think it's turning a real life issue, what was an issue, and getting heat from it. You know what I mean? I don't know. It's still gonna take me a while to be able to look beyond that and just focus on the wrestling. But when you see again, like there wasn't any chances as bad as last week. I mean, as vocal as last week. But it's embracing go away heat based off real life stuff. I don't know. They're just leaning into it. I just don't know how to feel about it yet.
I feel you. Like I said, I'm trying to see this with an open eyes because, again, I didn't watch her original run in TNA. I wasn't watching TNA at that time. So, you know, my perspective is different from probably other people's perspective. So afterwards, you know, obviously Tessa Blanchard wins this. Corey Jades attacks Masha just as she was about to get interviewed. So obviously we know at Sacrifice is going to be Masha Samovich versus Cora Jade for the Knockouts title. So I can't wait. I think that's going to be a good match.
Yeah, I expect Masha to win. But yeah, that should be a very good match.
All right. Next, you get a Joe Hendry and Elijah segment. And basically, Joe Hendry's talking about how they made such a great team, but he knows that he turns his back, that guitar's gonna go to his back. But Elijah reassures Hendry that he's got nothing to worry about, and they're about to make fantastic music together. And as long as Elijah believes in Joe Hendry, he has no problem walking alongside Elijah. And I have to say, I walk with Elijah. I've always walked with Elijah. Well, Elias, not Elijah. So
I like not only how they pointed this, Joe Hendry pointed this out, because I don't know if we even talked about this last week, or like this was even talked about. I feel like I saw this mentioned is right when this partnership happened. I was like, okay, when do we get to the point where Elias turns on him? So like, I not only did they bring it up, but I like how Elias almost doubled down, and he sounded so phony, like, but it was like almost on purpose. So like, yeah, that's whenever we get this match, you know, if it was Russo booking, it would most likely be a guitar and a pole match. Thank God he's not. So when we do get this match, it should be fun. But for a while, again, Elijah made sense. They do make a good team. And so also I'm assuming we're going to get some sort of collabs down in the future between them in the next couple of weeks, with them having a few concerts.
I will have to say, like, I cannot wait for when that feud happens, just because if you remember what Elias's whole gimmick was like creating songs, but most of the time the songs would be used to diss people and like, I remember like when he booed when he dissed Seattle and their basketball team and stuff like that. So I definitely do think it would be a fun and interesting rivalry because they're so similar to each other. Except the biggest difference between them is Elijah can pull off being the heel. I don't know if Joe Hendry could pull it off, but I know Elijah can.
Let me just say, as a heel duo, that would be money. As them just bashing each town they go to, like musically. Because Joe Hendry, if I remember right, was a heel in his first run in TNA, and I do think that his gimmick works as a heel, even if he's not a heel now. You know what I mean? Because he's kind of a dick in a way, like the way he'll roast other the heel. You know what I mean? The way he does it, but the fans love him. So, yeah, I know that would be interesting. Him as a heel, but yeah, going forward, I think this does work either way.
Mm-hmm. Just as while being pre-taped, they were able to hide a lot of what the BS these fans were saying. I think they were smart. They didn't have a wrestle last week because it was being live. Wow. Russo would have made sure Elijah didn't last longer than 2 months if he was booking. And then at the end, the system interrupt and they welcome Elijah to TNA, but they inform him that they run the show. So maybe we might. I honestly would not want to see Joe Hendry revisit his feud with the system. I'm hoping that's not where this is going. But I would like to see Elijah do music for the system. Like, what kind of songs, and this is what he would do. I think that'd be interesting.
I agree.
All right. So next we get Casey Navarro versus Bulletproof Steve Maclin. Seems like they're going full babyface force on Steve Maclin. I thought this was good. I thought it was a great showing by Casey Navarro. Steve Maclin was victorious despite the fact that AJ Francis was out there and the Northern Armory was out there. So he still managed to pick up the win. I thought this was a good match.
Yeah. And even though he lost, and he also is, Casey Navarro just exudes charisma. It's dripping from charisma. Steve Maclin has put it good on. He's put. I think we all said as soon as he lost the title, we were mad. We've been waiting. We all, a lot of people, we all wanted to get the title once again. But I honestly think that this version of him, I think it's all together now. I actually kind of think he's better as a babyface than a heel. I don't know. The crowd loves him. He just comes off like such a star.
I have to agree with you. I do think he comes off. Personally, I've always been a fan of Steve Maclin, even when he was a heel.
Yeah. I agree with you. Sorry. I agree with you. Same.
I definitely do think this version of Steve Maclin could potentially be world champion again. I just question when will they fit him in, because I think the next two champions are going to be Frankie Kazarian and Mike Santana.
See, that I guess that was my point. Was I think he was always going to be eventually especially if he stuck around TNA. I think he just signed another deal. I think he was going to be eventually world champion again. But I just think that I think they found something with him being a face where I think that could potentially speed when we see his next title run. Just because, again, I'm like blown away. I just think that he's better in this role, especially given that he was a great heel. I thought that was more of a natural, but I'm starting to think he's more of a natural face now.
And you know something? The transition that TNA did for Steve Maclin from heel to face, I thought was a really smooth and believable transition.
Yes.
It didn't feel forced, it didn't feel fake, it didn't feel like, where the hell did this come from? How is he heel? How is he a face when he was just a heel? So I actually really like that. I think his face turn was fantastic.
Also, let's give some credit. Obviously, AJ Francis, but Casey Navarro, they know how to be heels. The way they work out there, you know what I mean. Casey Navarro was so cocky. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
this was a very fun match.
it was. All right. Joseph says TNA has that Midas touch. Midas touch. Everything they touch turns to gold. Steve Maclin is a perfect example. Yeah, true that.
This crowd was very hot tonight. Like, we didn't mention it, but I think the loudest. I think the loudest point of the night was, and we had already talked about the match, but when Danny Luna hit that move where she grabbed Heather from the outside and like tossed her into the ring, the crowd lost their shit. But yeah, the crowd was very good tonight.
Yeah, I agree. The crowd was amazing. Okay, so we get a Tessa Blanchard segment, and she's just walking in the alley, in the hallway. I guess she's going back to her locker room or leaving. And Xia Li confronts her. If you remember last week, she was basically like trying to hurry up the doctor while he was checking on Xia Li. So we're gonna get Xia. I mean, not Xia Li. Li Ying Li. Oh, they have such similar names. I was thinking Xia Brookside and Xia Li. I don't know why I called her Xia Li. I know that's what she was known as in WWE, but she tells Li Ying Li that she's not on her level, and Santina Morella makes it official. That sacrifice is going to be Tessa versus Li Ying Li, which I think should be a good match.
Yes, personally, I would have Ying Li go over, but obviously, I don't think that's going to happen for obvious reasons. I'm assuming as things stand now in TNA's mind, they're probably going to build towards her versus Masha, but again, yeah, no, but I right now I'm very excited about this match.
Yeah. I think it's going to be a good match. I definitely do think so. And you're right. They are building to Masha versus Tessa. Okay. So we next get Spitfire versus Ash and Heather by Elegance. Remember, whoever won this match or whoever lost this match will have to be the lackeys for the personal concierge for the other team. And I thought this was a really fun match. Heather and Ash dressed as Minnie Mouse because they're in Orlando. And it's no surprise Spitfire won this because I thought it would make the most sense for Ash and Heather to be Spitfire's personal concierge. They were complaining about Spitfire's belongings being sticky, the elbow pad, and then, the personal concierge of Ash and Heather try to, carry some of the stuff for them. But Santana Morella said that was not possible. And honestly, I kind of hope that after this, we move on from this feud. Obviously, if Heather and Ash are not going to win the tag titles, we need to move on. Again, that is kind of one of the TNA's weak parts is the lack of knockouts tag teams. They were never able to really replace all the tag teams that they lost so quickly, which is why I feel like it's time after this feud is over for Spitfire to head to NXT, go face off against the Jakar Jackson and Lash Legend or Sol Ruka and Zarya, or any other women's tag team that's available on NXT.
Yeah, I thought this feud was going to be over regardless, but I thought it would have been over after Ash and Heather won. But now with this result, not only that, this even more has to be because we can't get a third match. But yes, obviously, then I would think the first move would probably them popping up in TNA and NXT. But TNA does need to do something. There's a lot of people that I'm surprised they haven't signed by now, especially ones that we've whether seen in enhancement matches or pop up and explosion. They need to bring some people in.
Yeah, even Joseph says this was a fun match, but how many times can they do Spitfire versus the Elegance brand before it gets old? This is where the NXT teams would help out a lot. That is so true. They either gotta start signing more knockouts tag teams, or they just gotta bring in people from NXT because after a while, this feud is just gonna be like, okay, if they're not gonna win the tag titles, you gotta do something else here, So we have to wait and see where this goes. But I thought it was funny that Ash and Heather got to be the personal concierge. I saw that one coming a mile away.
Yeah.
All right, next we get Sami Callihan versus Mance Warner. This match does not have a clear finish because Sami Callihan hits Mance Warner with a steel chair. And a commentary does make note that they don't officially recognize Steph Delander as digital media champion. So again, maybe you're right. Maybe this is going to lead to her defending that title, but not in a. She's probably gonna have Mance defend that title for her. Yeah, just like you said. So I think that's what that's heading for.
Yeah, agreed.
I'm a women's wrestling fan, but this feud with that Spitfire is involved in is getting old very fast. I agree.
Yeah, this is on TNA. They need to bring in some again. They need to sign some more women. Ideally, more women teams. So.
Mm-hmm. All right. So, we also find out Santana Marella makes a street fight at Sacrifice Mance Warner versus Sami Callihan. So, I think that's gonna be a really good match.
Yes.
We get Frankie Kazarian versus Ace Austin with Wesley, Tyson, and Tyreek on commentary. This was a fun match. Poor Mackenzie Mitchell. Frankie Kazarian's already tormenting her too by making her announce him as the king of TNA.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. And I'm glad that you didn't say poor Hannafan, because he deserved. You heard what he said. He tried to ask the most disrespectful question to Wesley, and luckily Ray Walt was able to class it up a little bit and make it more palatable for Wesley to answer. But I think that this was so good. And again, I like when I think Wesley is becoming very, very good in this role. And while I feel like we've been seeing Ace Austin lose a lot lately, I don't think that it did not. I mean, it made sense right in this match. So, you know what I mean? And obviously, Kazarian winning, I have no problem with. He is the king of TNA. I like where everywhere he goes, that trophy with the scarf on it goes, and that's hilarious. That's hilarious to me. Mm-hmm. And again, he's continuing the trend of tormenting the announcers and making them call him the king of TNA.
But I will say, and I think commentary noted this, like whenever Jade Young would say, Frankie Kazarian wants to remind you all that he is the king of TNA, the way she would say it, you could kind of tell, like, she didn't want to say it. You know, the way she would say it, I got that vibe. Mackenzie Mitchell, I didn't get that vibe from her, and I think even commentary made note of it. But hey, it's okay. Everyone's got their own style.
Yeah.
So at the end of this match, Tyson, Tyreek, and Dez beat up or attack Ace Austin, and the Rascals come with steel chairs to his aid. So obviously, where they're building to that 6-man tag match that we're getting,
which should be very good.
Mm-hmm.
I like how. I like how during the match. And I'm glad they did this because, again, I can't remember everything. I like how Wesley was pointing out too that these guys shouldn't. I mean, the Rascals, Wentz and Miguel shouldn't like Ace Austin because they had a previous feud from years back, and I like them pointing that out. It adds layers to things.
Yeah, I noticed that. You're absolutely right. All right, so next we get another Ash and Heather segment where they give them the choice of walking the dog or carrying someone's bag. I have to say, I have dogs. Granted, they're Chihuahuas, but I would rather much walk a dog than carry a bag.
Yeah, that seems way easier.
Mm-hmm. Because with the dog, if I get tired, it's like, okay, you can force to stop and here like that. I'm not carrying nobody's bag.
Yeah.
This is like when Frankie Kazarian in the system gave Leon Slater a choice. He can either carry their bags or he could give Frankie Kazarian an occasional cup of coffee. I would go with the occasional cup of coffee.
Yeah. But
anywho, Ash decides to walk the dog and Heather decides to carry the bags. Ash, there's this I don't know what breed of dog it was. It was one of those tiny dogs. But she's insulting the dog, and it turns out that's Steph the Lander's dog. And she basically tells her to never insult her dog again. And then Jody Thread says, "This is my dog," and it's like one of those big breeds of dogs. I forgot what breed it was. And then Ash and Heather become like drivers for Spitfire, which I thought was hilarious. And I remember, I forgot who it was. I think it was John Schuyler, maybe Eric Young. I remember during one of the Around the Ring segments, they said that a lot of the wrestlers in TNA, a lot of people on the roster in TNA have dogs, and they bring their dogs to the show. So no surprise that Steele's dog was there, or Jody Stark's dog was there.
Yeah.
So this was a fun segment. I like it.
Yeah.
But you guys in the chat, let us know. Would you rather carry Tandy Luna's bags or walk Jody Thread's dog?
Uh-huh.
These 24 hours are gonna be hell to be there. Yeah, they are. They definitely are. All right. So last but certainly not least, Ryan Nemeth graces his appearance, and he says that his big brother returns to TNA 15 days at Sacrifice. So I'm very curious to see what Nick Nemeth is going to do. Maybe he is going to be a mystery partner. Maybe he's not. Maybe he's going to confront Joe Hendry. So we'll have to wait and see. But as I said last time, Ryan Nemeth is really playing up the role of the annoying heel so well.
I feel like maybe like a few years ago, TNA would the most obvious thing would be for Nick and Ryan to be the mystery opponents.
Mm-hmm.
But I know I feel like it feels more like we're gonna get surprised more than usual. So I feel like it is gonna be a surprise. You know what I mean? Maybe a couple free agents.
I was going to say not only is Ryan an annoying heel, but he's an annoying little brother. And you know something, like I thought Ryan Nemeth was much, much, much younger in age to Nick Nemeth, but they're not that far apart in age.
No, I think Ryan's about to be 40 and like Nemeth's like 42 or 43.
Wow. All right. So I guess that's it, because we already talked about the main event, which is a 6-man tag match. We talked about it at the beginning. So if you guys want to check that out, feel free to rewind the video. So is there anything else you want to say or mention and talk about before we get ready to sign off? No.
Another good show for TNA, I think. Continue to be on a hot streak.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I'm really thinking the road to Sacrifice. If Sacrifice, for it being a TNA Plus special, definitely feels like a big show.
Mm-hmm.
So, all right, Bert, where can people find you?
Just on Twitter at BertMaclin11.
All right, you can follow me on Twitter at @Tessa_. I talk Raw, SmackDown, AEW, Dynamite, TNA, Impact, and I go live on my channel, Rangers of Wrestling, every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, occasional Saturdays, and of course, for all things TNA, you can catch me here every Thursday. Let's see. Joseph says, thanks for a great recap on the road to Roadblock and Sacrifice. Oh, yeah, definitely. It's going to be a really interesting week. I definitely think it's going to be a very interesting week that week. Solid episode trended tonight. Sacrifice is going to be fun. Oh, yeah, they were trending. And yeah, I agree with that. It was a really great episode.
No. I know. It's awesome they were trending.
Yeah. And if you're still not watching TNA, I don't know what more to tell you.
Exactly.
All right, you guys. Great night, everybody.